Good evening, Bulldogs. I'm Megan Lewton
I'm Cora Hall.
with the Ferris State Torch here following the homecoming comedian performance Thursday, September 27th. Dave Coulier performed and student Logan Dunsmore opened. Here's some student thoughts about the performances.
He was so funny. I was laughing at least 50% of the time. Not even more. I loved it.
I thought Dave was such a funny guy. I never laughed so hard at a live performance with comedy in my life.
Awesome to hear. What was your favorite part of the show?
It's a good question.
The whole thing was absolutely fantastic, but I definitely like the harmonica part the best because I love music, and so that was like a really crazy, awesome thing that he did.
I loved the harmonica at the end. Even though, the airplane jokes were so accurate.
Probably the flight attendant joke when he was talking about not flight attendant, the pilots, how the pilots are always so calm and collected because they take a nap and then all of a sudden they're awake and live and up in action. He's just a really funny guy.
Because I've been on airplanes like 3 times this summer and it just made me crack up. It was so funny.
Perfect. I hope I have answers. You never know. You never know. If I don't know something, that's pretty much my entire life, actually. So,
Relatable.
yeah.
So, for starters, as a Michigan native, what is it like returning to your home state? Is Michigan similar to how it was when you lived here, when you grew up, or is it like vastly different?
I love coming back home. It means I get to see my family and my friends, which I'll do tomorrow. So I like coming back and seeing everybody because I have lots of people here. I guess to answer the second part of your question, has Michigan changed a lot? Yeah, I guess it has a lot certainly since I've been, doing comedy. It's a whole different world. And that, just is a natural process that just evolves with, when I started, we had VHS recorders and no one had a cell phone and there was no social media. So, if you got an article in the paper about, your career, that was a big deal. I was on the cover of TV Guide with the Olsen twins, and that was a big deal. Now it's, how many followers do you have? So the world has changed in that regard. The comedy has changed as well. You can't talk about certain things that you used to be able to talk about, which is kind of a shame because if you look back at the history of comedy, comedians have always kind of torn away the social strata that builds up in our society. And you need to do that with humor. And it's very hard to do that now just because everybody's viewpoints have changed. And I think that people are very quick to pounce on something with social media instead of just letting it kind of breathe and see how the world feels about a certain statement or something. It's immediately over or it's immediately, it's really easy now to throw a hand grenade over the fence blindly and no one knows who threw the hand grenade. And that's certainly a different world. I don't think that you'll have any more Lenny Bruces. I don't think that you'll have any more Mort Sauls or Dick Gregory's or Richard Pryors or George Carlin's or Don Rickles. It's very hard to do that type of humor now. So the world, to answer your question and kind of button hook back to where we were, the world has changed, the social issues have changed, and the temperament of audiences have changed a lot.
Going, back to the audience topic, a lot of people here grew up watching on Full House with Joey. How do you feel like you as a person relate to that character? Do you feel like you're kind of similar, or is Joey completely separate from you as a person?
Well, I brought a lot of myself and my humor to the character of Joey Gladstone, so of course I'm deeply intertwined with that character and continue to play that character on Fuller House. So, they should have called the show Full Circle because that's what we've done. But I bring a lot of my sensibilities to that crazy, childish character. But then that character is also totally opposite of who I am in a lot of ways. I'm kind of a geek, nerd, techno geek. I love airplanes. I love avionics. I love science. I love telescopes. I love very, very technical things. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be a surgeon. And that's not Joey Gladstone. So people, I'll take them flying. I've been flying for 40 years now, and as a pilot, I'll take people flying, and they're like, "You're so serious up there," and I'm like, "Well, you have to be, because if you're not, you die."
True.
Yeah, absolutely. And tying back into the topic of Fuller House, how is being on Fuller House similar and different from Full House? How is it working with the same cast again all these years later? What's that?
Well, it's the same cast plus it's additional cast members, so the family has grown. It's kind of like Full House 2.0. The process hasn't changed at all. In fact, we're still on the same stage at Warner Brothers, stage 24, where we shot the original show. Okay. So after we left there in 1995, Friends took over that stage, and then after Friends, it was Mike and Molly, and now we're back on our same stage. So it's deja vu all over again, and it's really not changed. We still have 4 cameras. It's a multicam show. We do it in front of an audience. We go about the business of producing the show the same way. The only difference is I'm directing some of the shows now, so I have a completely different 180-degree perspective now. And being an actor is really easy. Being a director is really hard.
You did say, you mentioned you want to be a doctor, and now your career is comedy. So I guess, what does being a comedian mean to you, and like why was that your decision?
I come from a very large family, and they're all funny. And we would sit around, and none of us, we were very low middle class. My family worked for Chrysler and GM and Ford in Detroit. And so we were very blue collar. So we had to kind of make up our, we couldn't go out on our boats, and have a wonderful time at our cottages. We had to sit in the backyard and make hot dogs, and we would make jokes. And so, but I think a big part of who I am in the world of comedy and why I got into it, my parents got divorced when I was 9 years old, and there was a lot of pain there. And so for me, comedy was a constant catharsis. I wanted to hear laughter because I wasn't hearing a lot of laughter in my house during that time. And so I became the funny guy on the hockey team, the funny guy on the baseball team, the funny guy on the golf course, and I loved it. And I had a partner, actually 2 partners in crime, Tom Keenan and Mark Sandrowski. Mark Sandrowski has directed every episode of The Big Bang Theory, and he's been my best buddy since we were in 3rd grade. And so we were always doing funny shows or doing comics or cartoons or something. So I had this immediate bond with another guy who wanted to do the exact same thing that I wanted to do. And that's a rarity. And especially in show business, to be able to, have somebody that close to you in a crazy business in Hollywood. It's really remarkable.
Yeah, absolutely. What would you say if you could give one piece of advice to your 20-year-old self? What's something that you would say?
Don't beat yourself up so much. I had a tendency to really be very hard and tough on myself, but all I really had was a really strong work ethic, and I was constantly pushing myself because I knew what the odds were against me of moving from St. Clair Shores, Michigan, and I'm going to go make it big in Hollywood. And when I saw other comedians blowing coke up their nose and getting drunk next to the Comedy Store and not getting up until 4 o'clock in the afternoon, I was renting airplanes and flying and running, and they used to call me the Christian Shine Boy, and because I would go to church, and but that's how I grew up. So for me, I was trying to find all the consistencies that I grew up with in the middle of show business, and so going to church on Sunday was something I had done as a kid. So I was trying to find anchors, and I really was tough on myself. I did The Tonight Show when I was 24 years old for the first time, and Johnny Carson was hosting, and that was a really big deal back then. That was the show, and you knew everyone in show business and everybody in your entire life was going to be watching The Tonight Show. And I was not a Tonight Show comedian. You know, I do voices and characters, and you know, I don't tell jokes in 6 minutes, and which you'll see tonight. But you know, I went and I kind of shoehorned myself into the Johnny Carson show mold, and I did my 6 minutes, and I was very unhappy about it, and I really beat myself up, and I thought, you know what? Don't, because you're on a whole different path than a Jerry Seinfeld or a Stephen Wright or a Gary Shandling. But those were my peers, and so then the Howie Mandels and the Jim Carreys and started coming along, and Robin Williams and Steve Martin, and that just blew the doors open, and I thought, you know what, don't be so hard on yourself, because there's an entire spectrum of possibilities in the world of comedy now.
Can you do your best Danny Tanner impression?
You know, I've never really done Bob. I do the insane Bob for everybody. I do impressions of everybody for our cast on Fuller House now, and I've created these characters over the years, and you know, like Candace will come up and go, please, can you do the beer sausage guy? And so I'll do the beer sausage guy, or, but I've never really done Bob. I do the crazy Bob that none of you would know, but you have to experience Bob for as many years as I have in order to understand the impression. But I could vacuum something right now if you want. Yeah, I could do that.
We can get one
Yeah.
for you. We'll get it going.
So I have a little bit more of the school-oriented questions. What would you tell students that are, you know, maybe struggling, but what would you tell them to keep pursuing their dreams? Because you've been through Hollywood, so you've had to go through a lot. What would you tell a student who's maybe struggling?
Well, everybody's on their own path, and everybody has their own skill set, and it's nice to have people that you look up to and that they become a role model for you. But you know, the idea is that you have, you know, special qualities, and so you don't want to walk into, like, for instance, like a casting session thinking, oh, I'm going to be Sarah Silverman. It's like, no, you're you. They want to see what is special about you. And I think a lot of people do that in the beginning, you know, especially, I see it a lot with comics, especially young comics. I'll see, you know, men and women who are just starting out, and you can really tell they're emulating someone, you know, whether it's Joan Rivers or whether it's Sarah Silverman, you know, or Roseanne Barr. It's just they kind of, you know, find a familiar personality. But that's what I would say. And whenever I'm asked that question, it's just stay on your path, because the first part of that path is really tough. And you have to, in show business, you have to be able to handle a lot of rejection, because people will walk in and, you know, you'll get a call from your agent and you go, how'd it go? Well, you're not handsome enough. You got to be able to handle that. Your nose is too big. You're not tall enough. They just didn't think you were funny. You know, but you know, you hear these stories all the time where, like Marla Sokolov, who plays Gia on Full House and Fuller House. She was telling a story where the producers said, we need you to lose 15 pounds. And she's like, well, why? Because you're just too big. And Marla's, I mean, she's this big. She's, you know, but to say that to a young woman is not only horrific, but it's very blunt. And show business tends to be extremely, extremely blunt. And so if you can't, you know, just go, oh, whatever, and walk away and continue down your path, it's going to be a very bumpy road.
You're here out of college, university, we've got homecoming. What does it mean to you to be invited to such a special event for us?
Well, first of all, it's here in Michigan. So, my agent said, would you like to go home? And because he knows every time I get to go home to Michigan, I'm going to go and see friends and stuff. So that was big. First of all, that's like a big green light for me. And second, I was here. I had friends who went to college here. So I used to come up here and drink Pabst Blue Ribbon with my buddies that I went to high school with. Eric Fournier and Larry Pedri. Look those guys up. Larry played for the hockey team. And I really fell for some girl here. I can't even remember what her name was, but I met her and I was like, Larry, she's so cute. He's like, she likes one of the guys on the team. I'm like, so I don't have a shot? No, she said she thought you were kind of funny. I was like, maybe I got a shot. But I can't even remember. Laura, her name was Laura. But she was really cute. And I was like, yeah, but I had no shot because the hockey guy, Larry's like, well, that's him. And I'm like, and this guy's like, and handsome. And I'm like, okay, I got no shot. Yeah. So that was the last time I was here. So it had to be years ago. Yeah.
I didn't know you had some kind of connection. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here.
Of course. I'm looking forward to it.
Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Looking forward to your show.
Thank you. Me too.
All right.
That's it? That's too easy.